Hello, this is a presentation on using the find command in Unix. Currently, I'm in a test directory and I have created a few files as well as folders called task1 and task2 that I'm going to use to demonstrate the uses of the find command. So find command in its most essence, in the simplest form, by just using find and dot, is going to return basically all of the files as well as folders or the directories that are in the current directory. So I can see when I do find dot, it's going to give me a list of all of the files as well as folders. Now, the bigger use of find actually comes into play when I can be very specific and add filters or options to the find command, which are going to let me find particular files or folders based on particular criteria. So for example, I can specify the type option, which is basically looking for all the types, all the files in the system and not the folders. So I can do type F, that means all the files. So it's only going to show me all of the files in the current directory. Now, instead of type F, I can do type D to find all of the folders in the current directory. Now, with the find command, I can also look for particular files. So for example, if I have a file in somewhere in this folder called logo.png, but I don't remember where exactly this file is. So I can use the find command to search for this file. So I'll just say find dot type F, and I'm going to use another new option called name. So name is essentially going to allow me to specify a particular name, and it's going to return me all of the files that fit the criteria of the name. So for example, when I do logo.png, it's going to give me the return the directory in which logo.png is located. So I can also use regular expressions instead of the name here. So I can, for example, say return all of the files which begin with the word data. And I'm going to use the star as part of the regular expressions to specify anything. So data, any file that begins with data. So I'm going to press enter and it's going to return all of the files which begin exactly with small case data. So small case because the name option in itself is by default case sensitive. So if I want to return all the files or see all the files which begin with uppercase data, I have to use or add another I in front of this. So I name is essentially specifying insensitive name. So show all the files which begin with the word data, but don't care for the uppercase or lowercase of it. So when I do this, you can see that it also shows me all of the files which start with uppercase data. Uh, Now, apart from a name, another really cool option in the find command is something called mmin. So mmin is essentially specifying all of the show me all of the files that were modified, which is what m stand for, in the last 10 minutes. So I'm going to say -10 mmin. So all the files that were modified in the last 10 minutes. And I'm going to press enter, and it's not going to show anything because none of the files were modified in the last 10 minutes. Now, instead of -10, I can also do +10. So that's going to essentially mean show me all the files which were modified more than 10 minutes ago. And that's going to print out all of the files because all of the files were modified more than 10 minutes ago. Instead of mmin, actually, I can also use the interface that the operating system generally provides about files that were accessed or modified or changed in the last 10 minutes. I can also access them. So instead of mmin, if I do amin, it's going to show all the files that were accessed more than 10 minutes ago. Or instead of I can also do cmin. So cmin is going to be all the files that were changed. Let's do, instead of +10, let's do -10. So this is going to show also nothing. So that means none of the files were changed less than 10 minutes ago. Now, if you create a new file, for example, touch new file, then I'm going to run the cmin command again. And now it's going to print out new file because this was changed less than 10 minutes ago. That is -10. So those are the main uses of the find command. Now, talking about the backup commands in Unix, backup commands, there are two most simple ways to do backup in Unix. The first one is called CP. So if I do man CP, this is actually the GNU implementation of CP. So here's, I want to take a little side tour talking about the implementations of the CP command. So what I noticed was the initial implementation of CP that comes with macOS by default is actually something that was taken from the BSD operating system. So essentially, the problem with that was it didn't have all the CP commands that other kinds of Unix systems have. For example, now if I do man cp, you can see it says BSD general commands manual. So this cp command has quite a few flags, and we can do quite a lot with this cp command. But if I want additional features, so for example, I want to use archive or backup or force, this cp command does not have all of that. So in order to get that, I essentially went to the GNU implementation of cp called GNU, or GNU is not Unix, is the full form of GNU. So basically, the GNU implementation has a few additional flags or options in cp which are very useful to us for backup. So I'm going to first of all make changes to my ZSHRC file, and I'm going to source the file again so that that path of the GNU implementation is available to me. And now when I open new directory and I do man cp, you can see that the implementation doesn't say BSD anymore, because this is the GNU implementation of cp. So even the options that are available now, for example, we have a new option called backup, which wasn't available previously, and something called archive spelled out, and a few more other options which we don't need to get into. But basically, this implementation is very useful to us. So now I'm going to demonstrate the use of cp itself. So the most simplest form, cp can be used to just create a copy of a particular file. So I have a file called index.php, and I'm just going to do index.php cp and specify the final path, or the destination path, or the destination file name of the file that I want to keep it at. So for example, index.php, I've named the backup file to be called indexbackup.php. And that's, as you can see, creates a new file called indexbackup.php. Now, if I try to do this, instead of using the file name, if I want to, for example, copy a folder, create a backup of a folder, and if I just try to do it directly, it's going to scream at me because it does not work by default with directories. So what we need to do is create a recursively backup of the directory. So that basically means I need to specify a flag called -r. So this option of -r, or recursive, I can say, spell it out as recursive. That's essentially going to recursively back up all the files. So that lets me back up the entire directory. So when I do this, I have a new task1 backup directory. Now, because we use the new implementation of cp, that was going to allow us basically to also use the force flag. So the reason why I want to use the force flag, so I'll do a demonstration without using the force flag. So if I want to copy an index.php file to the destination, also should be named index.php. Suppose I don't want to change the name of the file, of the backup file. And if I do this, it's going to say that index.php and this are the same file, so it's not going to allow me to do that. However, if I specify the force flag, so I'm going to say force, and I'm going to say that create the backup of the file based on particular numbered. So I'm going to specify backup equals numbered option, and essentially this I'm trying to say I want to do a backup, and I want the successive backups of that file to be numbered. So when I press enter, now you can see it doesn't scream at me anymore, and in fact you can see that it's created a backup of the file, and it has numbered the backup as ~1 . Now if I run this command again, what we'll see is going to happen is it's going to create another file with the same name, but it has ~2 in the end of the name. So you can see that this command, which is not available in the default implementation by BSD, is actually pretty useful. So using the GNU implementation allows us to have a few more features. Now I'm going to talk also about a second way, a second way to backup in Linux. That is the tar command. So tar is essentially like an archive. It stood for tape archives, but because of the way I think tape archives used to work back in the old day. But essentially, it's kind of like creating a zip archive. So what you can simply do with the tar command is so suppose I have a folder called task2. So I want to back up task2 now. So what I'm going to do is tar xvf and task2.tar. So I'm going to specify the name of the backup that I want to have. So xvf is going to be, this should not be xvf, this should be cvf. xvf is to extract the tar file. So cvf is going to create the backup. So no directory specified. Oh yeah, I have to do tar cvf and the name of the directory that I want to back up. So I'm going to do task2, and then I'm going to specify the name of the destination of that directory, of the backup itself. So I'm going to run that, and it says fail to open. Well, okay, so I have an error and I'm going to try to figure out why that is. Okay, so it turns out, I think, let's just switch this around. So instead of task.2.r being named here, I'm going to call this task2 here. So I think, so basically with CVF, you have to specify the name of the backup you want to create first, and then the name of the directory. So it's the opposite of this copy command. So I got a little bit confused there. So yeah, once I do this, it's going to say output all the files that it made a copy of or backed it up. So you can see now that there is a new folder or a new archive called task2.tar. And now I'll try to remove the old task2 folder, and now we are not left with the task2. And now I want to somehow use the task2 that was backed up in the archive again. So what I'm going to do is, instead of CVS, I'm going to use XVF. So that stands for extract, and basically just extract it. And I don't think I need to specify a directory. It's just going to extract it and name the folder as the default name. So after I do that, you can see that there's a folder again called task2, and if I go inside task2, I can see that all my file is still saved there. So that's the simplest way of creating a backup using tar command.